Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Magical Learning Podcast, one of our last ones for the year. I hope everyone's enjoying their holidays and winding down or getting the final bits ready for their holiday period. Today, we're having a nice little intimate one, which is just me and Danette. So, Danette, hello, and how are you?
Hey, Jez, really good. Had a really good week. How about you?
Yeah, really good. Good. The weather's
Nice.
starting to pick up slowly here in Melbourne, so that's always good.
Yay.
And today we're going to be talking about the final of our John Scollin series, the final one, which is the impact of negative experiences in the workplace. But before we get to that, I thought, given that you have just started and I think finished your own version of Brene Brown's Dare to Lead course, I think that a lot of people that listen to us might be also interested in Brene Brown's work. And if you haven't heard of her, go check her out. She's got heaps of great stuff to check out. But I just thought would you be able to give us maybe one or two insights from the course for people that may want to know a little bit more about it or things that, could be relevant to them?
Nice. Yeah, so Jez, the first one, which I really liked, is basically the way you are is the way you lead. So if we're not aware, then we're going to lead as an unaware leader. So, this is all about learning to be vulnerable, which is actually as a leader asking for help and saying you don't know everything versus trying to pretend you do. And the bit that I was just sharing with Jeremy just before we started was something that I'd never made this connection with, that your values and your self-care are quite well aligned. So if you can link your values to the type of self-care that you do, it actually is really effective. For example, my top two are freedom and contribution. And everyone's words, so the words mean different things to different people. So contribution for me is about giving back and making the world a better place. And the freedom is the ability to be able to manage my time in a way that works most effectively for me. And so with self-care, one of the things that I love to do is, when at the sort of middle of the day or wherever I am, where I hit a bit of a funk and my energy is gone, I'll give myself permission to leave my work area and actually go and read or watch a course, because one, that gives me the freedom to do it in my time, which works with my body and my energy. But two, I'm learning stuff that I can then share with other people to help them grow and learn. And never thought of it that way. And I was saying to Jeremy just then, for some people, the thought of going and learning something which may not be part of their values, they'd be like, oh, yuck, how does that make you feel better? But for me, it's like drinking, lots of water. It's just amazing. It makes me feel good. So I really like that connect. Finding out first your values and what's really important, and then thinking about how you can do your self-care that aligns to that. So that was a really good insight. I've got one to share towards the end as well, but I'll leave that for later.
Great teaser, Mum. Well done.
Practice on.
Yeah. So hopefully everyone is enjoying that stuff. And if you want to check it out, you can go have a look at Brene Brown's Dare to Lead course. So all good stuff there. Or you can check out her book, Dare to Lead, which I believe it's based on. So that's awesome. All right. So I thought let's talk about, again, today we're talking about the impact of negative experiences in the workplace. And I thought today we could talk about the first question, which is what experiences could be negative work experiences? And I'll throw this to you, Danette.
Excellent question. And I looked at this two ways. So I could have created the negative experience, or it could have created in the workplace. So first one, my first ever professional job. I got given the wrong address. So I turned up late because it was back in the days where you had to pick up a phone and dial, so no mobile phones. So I had to go, this is a building under construction. There's no way I can get to level 21 because there's not, and then I rang them and they're, oh, sorry, we gave you the wrong address. I'm like, oh. Then that same day, so that was me. And them a little bit because obviously the address was wrong. Then late to the induction, and they said, oh, we've sent people off to do a DOS training course, which is a computer type thing. So I arrived late at that, and then me and the girl I partnered with, first thing we did was wiped my partner, as in accounting partner of major accounting firms, hard drive on his computer, on his laptop, and that was like, and at the stage I was like, maybe I'm not cut out for this work. Anyway, I went, you know what, go home, sleep, you'll be fine. And that actually taught me that, you know, sometimes just crap happens. You're going to have a bad day and just dust yourself off and move forward. And the partner, he was like, you know what, that reminded me to back up my hard drive. So that's not a bad thing. So it was pretty good. And he teased me as he was a partner on a couple of audits I did for a while. So I think sometimes it's what you do, sometimes it's what others do. I think, you know, when an organisation, say you start and they don't induct you, they don't welcome you, they sort of go, there's your desk, get your work done. We're tribal creatures, so not feeling like we're welcomed into a tribe can be great. So that goes for, you know, any behaviour that isolates people, belittle, stereotypes them, all of those sort of things where we don't feel included. That's going to trigger the threat response in our brain. So we're going to go to that fight or flight. And it's very difficult to bring your best self to the workplace then, having been treated like that. I think sometimes too, roles like that you have no or low control over you. So you just have to do, no one asks for your input. And lots of stress. If it's continuously stress, so a little bit of stress grows us, but if it's always that, you know, expectation that you've got to over and, you know, time off is weakness and all of those sort of things, that old culture that was like, you know, you burn the midnight candle, none of that is a great work experience. And I think the values big, coming back to that, if you pick an organisation where you work out pretty early on, your values are very different to the organisation and not in a good way, that can just create a bad work experience. And then I just think if you've got a boss, a very emotionally unintelligent boss, someone that, say, steals your credit work you've done, or plays favouritism, all of that's same with if you're dealing with lots of angry clients, all of those don't make work fun.
Yeah.
What about you, Jez? What are some of your experiences?
Well, one of the things that I found with, I actually had a similar story. I think you'll remember this. When I first got my job at this marketing company, on the first day, you were nice enough to drop me off, but unfortunately we got stuck in traffic. And so I was a little bit late. And then when I got there, I opened up my laptop to start working again. They were just like, you know, feel yourself out. And I had your laptop, and you were going on a flight that day, so that was a good start as well. But again, it was the same as just stuff is bound to happen at some point. Whenever you're trying to make a good impression, it's always bound to happen. So, so that's all right. But as long as the work culture is accepting of that and they understand that, you know, people's first day, things are bound to go wrong at some point, then I think that's okay. Yes. In terms of other stuff, I had a couple of things that what experiences could be negative work experiences. I had ones that typically I find that when someone high up in the business is under a lot of stress for whatever reason, it can really put a lot of stress on everyone else in the business, and it can actually sort of undo a lot of good things that happen when people aren't feeling as stressed out. So whether that be, you know, feel free to have good ideas or try new ideas, that can tend to disappear pretty quickly. And unless, you know, and also people that are higher up may have less ability to see bigger visions. So I think that can also be a little intense. But yeah, so that was my thoughts on could be some negative work experiences. Also, if the culture is bad and it does involve a lot of competition. I used to work at a retail outlet, and part of the philosophy of that retail outlet was that they always had to have casual work available signs out the front, and the managers had to hire new people at least once a month. And basically what happened was at the end of each month, they'd cull the person with the lowest statistics that they had worked out. And so it made the working environment very, very competitive. which is not good when you're trying to. It doesn't encourage people to help each other, which in the end, this business is now no longer in business, and I think it makes sense why. It was much too intense, and they would really keep you on task to a specific set of statistics. And if you weren't meeting those, you'd be getting a lot of talking to.
Yep.
So yeah, that was quite an intense one and a bad working experience, but it was a good lesson for me to look at how some places run and how that can work or not work.
Yeah, true. Actually, I just remembered another one. This has happened to a few people that I've been dealing with lately, that their organisation does performance appraisals and will give, they'll be rated by their team and their immediate boss and that as, high performer. And then the organisation's has to give bonuses to so many, but doesn't want to give it to everyone. So they then, say 5 is the top rating, they'll then mark them back to a 3 or a 4. And so you take your high performers and you demotivate them by telling them they're high performing and then saying, but we're not going to give you that rating and we're not going to give you that high bonus either. That's like, that's just weird.
Yeah. I think sometimes with these types of approaches, it can be something that when it's on paper, it makes sense. But I think with many of these types of approaches, you have to consider it not what are your intentions, but how can someone cheat the system? Because someone will cheat the system. It's just up to you to try and create a system that rewards. If someone's going to cheat it, they're going to do it in a good way. Like, for example, if you were to have a system that rewarded people who did charity work, then even the people that cheat that system by doing the most charity work to get a bonus or whatever, it's actually still doing good. So, you have to kind of incentivize positive action, I think, in those sort of scenarios, or if it was to, who can help the most people in the organization this week.
Yes.
Again, if someone's trying to hack that, it's still a positive to the business. So, anyway, so and I think also, I think a lot of what we've talked about as well, these are unintended sometimes. The negative experiences, these people aren't trying to ruin their own business. It's trying to make it better, trying to simplify how you can keep a very high quality, but it can unfortunately have bad knock-on effects. Yes. So speaking of that, what are some of the short-term effects of bad work experience?
Yep. So if I go back to that first day of mine, having the wrong address caused me stress. I was anxious. When I wiped the hard drive of my boss, I was like, oh no. So I felt a bit shamed. I felt like I'm going to lose my job. So it wasn't a great feeling at all. And I think some of the ones I've seen in myself where it hasn't perhaps been a good values fit with another organisation, I tend to think about what's been said and done, and I'll toss and turn at night. So it impacts my sleep. What I see in some people is they'll try harder to fit in or to do what's right, or they'll do the opposite. They'll disengage. And sometimes, depending on our attitude and how we can sort of reframe what we're experiencing, we can see it as an opportunity to learn and grow. But depending on what else is going on in people's lives, it can make their life more stressful, less happy, etc. So, and they, again, like you said, Jez, they may not be intended consequences, but they certainly have an impact on how the person shows up and how they perform. What about you? What have you seen on top of those?
Yeah. Well, I think it's a lot of the stuff that what you're mentioning, I think also is what I was thinking, which is it has a lot of unintended kind of life consequences that can really have more knock-on effects coming back into the workplace. So you're right. If people are feeling stress, then they probably can't be their best. They can't sort of have access to their most sort of free ideas, which typically can be stuff that can really help the business if they feel like they can talk about them. But if in the immediate future, if one of their head people is under stress, or they put in newer rules that reward a certain type of work, then it can really shut down other types of work. which can be valuable for your thing. I also, with that undersleeping, I also have noticed overworking, people that are just trying to put in too much time. And it's, again, this is something that's going to have a knock-on effect in their life, whether it be that they're not home to talk to their family or friends enough, and then that can sort of hamper those relationships, and then that has to be something that they later will bring into the workplace, because it's obviously going to affect them. And then I thought also, I've noticed this when there's been a bigger shift in terms of stress in the organization, that staff turnover can happen pretty quickly, where you see 2 or 3 people just head out pretty quickly. So that also, and obviously hiring and retraining everyone is not the easiest thing. So that can also be an annoying and tough consequence.
Yes. Yeah.
Sorry, go.
No. You go, Jez.
Sure. Well, I was just going to jump onto our third question here, which is what is the longer term effects of bad work experience?
Yeah. So I think your point about the high turnover, what I see is people who can will often leave because they just know this isn't the environment for them. For those that can't leave for many different reasons, they either stay really stressed and are not effective, or they might end up on something like stress leave. It obviously has an impact on their mental health, their physical health, so they'll often end up with challenges there. So we don't tend to get the best in people when they're in that circumstances. Some people are able to reframe and learn and grow, but often if it's not a really good culture, people want to sort of move on and get away from it. So I've had some people stay in cultures where they were not a good fit at all, and over time they started to believe what the organisation was messaging them, so they lost confidence. They didn't believe that they were worthy of a better job. And when they finally either got sacked or they left, they were like, oh, why did I wait so long? Why didn't I get out earlier? So, yeah. What about you, Jez? What are some of the long-term things you've seen?
Well, I mean, I think that last point you had was really good, which is that you're wasting a talent that could be better serving your workplace, but if you have certain goals and this person's skill set isn't necessarily completely adjacent to them, it can be tough for both you and them, because you feel like they're not giving their full potential, and they aren't giving their full potential, but it's because they don't feel like they can. I was going to say, so I've kind of split this as well into two, how you did with the first question, which is as an employee and as a boss. So as an employee, I think your work can become unfulfilling and uninspired. And I don't think this necessarily has to do with the type of work. I thought when I worked at Hog's Breath, I actually had a great time, and it was very fulfilling because they were very open with how you could do it. So this was just working at a restaurant for people that are outside of Australia. But their approach was so lax that it actually was fun to go to work, and it felt like I was doing some stuff, and I felt like I was doing well. And I've, had more sort of like, I guess, office jobs that I have had the opposite feeling. So it doesn't have to do with the type of work necessarily. It's just to do with how you feel when you're at the work. And as you were saying as well, as an employee, it may force you to leave the industry. You may feel like you've been burned too much by the people and this particular style of work. And you might think, oh, this whole type of work is not for me. Whereas it may have just been the way that business was run, and there may be an actual version. You may still be a good talent in that area. And then if you're the boss, you can end up with a toxic workplace, which can be hard to go to work every day, especially if you have to work in the same office. And I saw this a little bit when I was at my marketing job, not only in there, but also with other businesses that we were looking at and trying to help. Is that sometimes if you're the owner of a business and you've developed a particular type of culture, and it's created a toxic workplace, you end up being stuck in a business that you no longer like. I knew a lot of people that
True.
owned businesses that didn't want to own them anymore, but they didn't know what to do. So,
Yep.
so you can kind of trap yourself by creating a bad culture. You can actually trap yourself in your own sort of weird business thing. So
It's so true.
yeah. So and it's, again, it's not, that doesn't have to be the end of that. You can
No.
fix that, and obviously, you know, that's some of the stuff that we do here at Magical Learning, is help people reestablish that so that they can have a good workplace and enjoy their business. So yeah, I just think yeah, if you produce these negative things, they're going to come back to you. So it's about supporting your stuff.
Yeah, and you know, it reminds me, Jez, that something that we talk about all the time when we're doing leadership training is that, you know, that whole culture thing starts at the top of the organisation. So if you're in a leadership position and you're not liking what you're experiencing, rather than looking outwards and going, you know, look at all these other people and what they're doing, it's like, okay, what am I doing that is creating this culture? So it requires that self-reflection to go, all right, that person's doing that. Where might I be doing that? And I've got a blind spot around that, because literally you can change leaders and you can watch cultures change overnight. And it's like, okay, that person right in the top position, in the CEO position, they might not see everyone every day, but their behaviour ripples through the organisation, as does the senior leader. So, yeah, it is a great opportunity to reflect and go, okay, how do we do this better?
Absolutely. Well, thank you for answering all the questions today, Danette. I just wanted to get your final thoughts of the impact of negative experiences in the workplace.
And this one I got out of the Dare to Lead. So this is the one I said at the front I would share with you. So we always talk about we're tribal creatures, and part of that being tribal is that we are hardwired to need connection. So part of the role of being a leader is that we create a safe environment, and we see the best in our people, etc. One of the things I learned in the Dare to Lead course, which was run by the Hatchery, fabulous organisation, and the facilitator, Michelle Holland, was awesome. So I just wanted to acknowledge them. One of the things that the questions that they asked, and I want everyone, as I ask this question, to reflect straight away, what was your first gut reaction to this? And then we'll talk through the answer. So the statement is, I believe that everyone is doing the best they can. Yes or no? So what they found, and this is in the Brene Brown research, is that the people that answered yes are often almost apologetic in answering yes, that they believe that everyone is doing the best they can. But what they know is that they are kinder to themselves and kinder to their staff. The people that answer no, often their answer is a very adamant hell no. People aren't doing the best they can. And what they've discovered is that they tend to have quite high perfectionist tendencies, and that means that they're harder on themselves and on others. And so one of the insights I got from that, because I'm a hell yes, I always believe that everyone's trying the best that they can, and my role as a leader is to help empower people to bring their best selves to work. We need to ask ourselves on those days where we're not achieving what we want to achieve, what lens or perspective am I looking at and looking through when I'm dealing with my people? Is it about empowering and lifting them up, or is it about that belief that they are not doing the best, they're slacking off, etc., etc.? So that to me was a really interesting insight, and it's certainly worth reflecting on what your answer to that particular statement is, because that gives you some insight as to how you show up, and it might be quite subconscious. So yeah, that was a long way of answering that question, Jez.
No, that was really good, and I think it's something that I've learned while I've been at ML is that if you don't feel like someone's doing the best, it's probably because they need some support somewhere to reestablish themselves, to get back in their best position and keep going. So at that point, it's just a good idea to help them out a little bit. and then you should get back to kind of what you were expecting from
Yeah,
them.
exactly.
Well, this is really, really good. It has kind of inspired me to talk a little bit about something that I've been working on, but we'll do that next week. I think I've got
Awesome.
a fun topic for next week about different types of creativity.
Oh, awesome.
And we can take a look at that. But I wanted to thank you very much, Danette, for being on the call. It's nice to just have just a one-on-one again, a throwback to an old style of ML podcast. If you're listening, thank you for listening. We've had a great year so far, so keep listening.
Yep.
And other than that, I want to thank you, Danette, and I want everyone to have a magical week.
Awesome. And thank you very much, Jez. And yes, everyone, have a magical week, and really looking forward to that topic next week, Jez.